Hello everyone. Welcome to another YouTube video. And I apologize for my voice if it seems a little froggy. I just got finished with a very long, exhausting week of church camp work. So today I've been wanting to do this video for a while, but I wanted to be sure that I could say what I'm going to say with confidence. And so here it is. This is not so much an insert review, but more of a philosophical video about why, for me at least, the age of the tire insert is mostly over. And what I mean is, for most situations, I am kind of finished with inserts. These are not even all the inserts I've ever had. I'm missing some Huck Norris's that I've tried before. I'm probably missing a medium version of that airliner right there. So I am going to do a quick review, but then I'm going to explain why I'm pretty well finished with them. I'm also missing, it wasn't mine. I had a Cushcore that was someone else's that I had examined before, and it was kind of the same story even with that. The short version of the story is, I don't think tire inserts, when it comes to protecting your rim from damage, especially if you're riding hard like downhill or enduro, I don't think they really work as well as we have all thought or hoped they would. And secondly, there has been a jump in technology that makes way more difference than an insert would. So what I have here, I have the newer Vittoria airliner. I have the downhill and the enduro. Here's the enduro. This was in a front. You can see there's a big cut all the way through. You know, there's cuts all around it. Now, to be fair, I never had any rim damage. So even if a liner gets cut all the way through, which they all do, including Cushcore, it doesn't mean it wasn't doing anything. It was still doing something. Here's the rear. It's a little more dense. It's got cuts all the way around it. And that does represent an absorption of force. Okay, here is a RimPact version 2, RimPact Pro. You can see big chunks just taken out of it. This is what I was running when this rim, let me see if I can get it to focus here. Let me pull this off the rim and show you what I did to a rim. This is a DT Swiss EX511 rim. I had this insert in somewhere between 28 and 30 psi in it when I did this number here. Now, I don't think there's any insert or rim in the world that would have necessarily survived when you land on a pointy rock. That's just the way it is, right? These are tire invaders. They're very light. They probably won't do much for you for sidewall support, but actually the amount of foam that overlaps the rim is just as much as those airliners there. And honestly, when it comes right down to it, as much as these, even though these seem way thinner. Here's the deal with inserts. When you put an insert in your rim and you add 25, 30 pounds per square inch of pressure, grab one and pinch it. See how much I can pinch that down with my fingers? How much force am I applying here, really? That can't actually be that much force for me to squish that to nothing. Now, like I said, it does something, but when we put inserts inside of our wheels and we add 30 psi, that insert is getting a lot smaller. Now, if they're massively wide, like these RimPacts, like these airliners here that go into the channel, the main thing they probably do is help with a little bit of sidewall stability. But my opinion is, if you are running an insert for wheel protection, you still have to run enough air pressure to get the sidewall stability, whether you had an insert or not. To be honest with you, the only insert I think really offers real rim protection This is the older Vittoria Airliner, okay? And this is a large. And I've had the mediums. They went with a bike I sold a while back. But even the way those mediums sit down in the rim, the amount of force that we apply when we land off jumps, right? We're falling from gravity. We have our body weight. We're very rarely perfectly straight up and down. There's always, flex. If you don't believe me that we are flexing tires and we are applying so much force that often the insert is irrelevant and it's never working the way we really think it's going to unless we are landing perfectly square, straight up and down. Other than maybe this large insert, this large airliner, because it just takes up so much volume. But when you run them, you're riding on this insert. I don't care if you put 28, 30 PSI in, you're hitting the insert super early, so your tire's not really working the way it was designed to. But for maximum rim protection, if you were like, I still want an insert, I don't care, this is the one I'd recommend. But you're going to pay a weight penalty and you're going to pay a ride feel penalty. Now, why have I quit running them? Well, to be frank, it's because of Schwalbe's casing. That radial, I know it's not a true radial, that radial casing allows us to run so much more PSI without giving up a good ride feel that I think it makes the insert kind of irrelevant. And I'll give you an analogy of why air is just going to do a lot more. All right? 20% of 32 PSI is actually 25% of 32 PSI is 8 pounds, right? 32 divided by 4 is 8 pounds, okay? I can even go a little higher, like at Shepherd Mountain, 33 PSI with a Schwalbe. If I were to, and I know you guys hate this, and I'm sure I look terrible, I might flip the camera around. Here we go. It's just weird talking to the ground. Well, I can't find the button to flip it, so forget it. If I were to tell you, hey, I've got a shock for you. It's an air shock. And I'm going to take this air shock and I'm going to put a big piece of foam in the bottom of it as a bottom out bumper. All right. And you can run, I'm going to tempt you to run 25% less air pressure in your air shock or your fork. Would you do it? No, you wouldn't do it because you're going to say, I'm going to bottom out like crazy. And then I say, but there's a big piece of, there's a centimeter thick piece of foam in the bottom. You'll be fine. You'd be like, no, man, because that air pressure isn't just the static pressure. When you bottom out, let's say you normally ran 100 PSI in your fork. All right, that's what you normally ran. And I told you, I'm going to give you a piece of foam this thick to put in the bottom, and now you're going to run 75 PSI in your fork. You'd never do it because there's no way that foam is going to be enough to hold up to the getting into the thousands of pounds of force that you're generating upon landing. And that's kind of what we've done with inserts is be like, yeah, man, I can run 23 PSI in my rear tire because I've got an insert. Well, it depends on where you're riding, bud. If you're riding cross country, sure. Now, speaking of cross country, that is an area where I still would consider running an insert. Most likely something like the Vittoria Airliner XC, not really for rim protection, or even this one here for like enduro or downhill. This would do the same job. The real reason I would run an insert now is for the ability to ride flat, to finish a stage. If I'm close to the end of like a long marathon race and I don't want to stop and try to fix a tire or whatever, an insert that allows you the ability to run flat, I think is still very relevant. You can't really replace that with casing. And it might offer a little extra sidewall support, which in cross country, you're trying to run lower pressures. I think that's more relevant. It's kind of funny. We've come full circle. Originally inserts were for downhill. They were for enduro. Cross country, we're trying to stay as light as possible. I think the script has been completely flipped at this point. If I were to run an insert in any bike, it would be my short travel bike, mainly just for the ability to ride flat, to get out, ride flat, because those tires do puncture more easily. Now, of the inserts I have here, if I was just looking for a little bit extra straight on impact protection through the tire, I'd probably just use these, because the actual amount of foam and the density of the foam where it actually hits the rim is just as good, if not better, than any of the others. If I was like, I don't care about ride feel, Clint, I truly want to protect my wheel as much as possible, I think the older Vittoria Airliner is your way to go. It's especially if you have a large, if you're running 2.5, 2.6 tires, this will do it. If you've got a 30 millimeter internal rim, you need the large. I don't care if the website says you need the medium, you need the large. If you're running 25 millimeter internal or smaller rims, then a medium will probably be fine. If you really want actual rim protection, it will work. These will work. They will do the job. Anything else is just for you're willing to roll the dice with lower pressures for a better ride feel, and you want a little extra sidewall support. An insert might help with that, but it is not going to save your wheel in truly hard impacts. I mean, go pump your tire up to 30 PSI and just take your hand and still see how much, just with your bare hand, you can flex that tire back and forth. And then think about if you land just a little off kilter with your body weight, you're coming from 5 feet in the air. That is a huge, huge difference in force. If you don't believe me, take a 2.5 pound weight and just sit it on your toe. Oh man, I'm wearing these generic Crocs. That's terrible. I shouldn't have done that. Okay. I bet you wouldn't hold that 2.5 pound weight 5 feet high and then drop it on your toe. The forces are just way more. And I think that the truth is the ability to run much higher air pressure is way more significant than any piece of foam that doesn't weigh 300 grams is going to be. So, bottom line, this is just my opinion on where I'm at on inserts. I've tried a bunch. They're not even all here. They will all fail you at some point if you think that you don't have to worry about air pressure and rims and all that. They're just not enough. But I still would use one, and I'm planning on using one for like the BT Epic, mainly for the ability that if I get a puncture, I can keep going and don't necessarily have to stop and put a tube in. So that's it on inserts, where we're at in insert world. I really hope all the other tire manufacturers, and I'm sure most of them are, really give this whole radial casing idea a fair shake. I am not committed to Schwalbe as a Schwalbe fanboy at all, but I can honestly say the thought of me now going back to wrestling with these and dealing with them, putting them in tires and all that, it'd be very hard for me to go backwards on that particular use case for enduro, now that I've experienced the ability to run 32 or 33 PSI and it feel like 27 in any other brand. Thanks for watching.